Hey, it's audience participation day. And what I want you all to do in the comment section below is to help me write the headline for the New York Times for the day of November 4th, 2020. Now, why that particular day? Let's think. November 4th. Oh, check it out. That's a Wednesday. November 3rd, 2020 is election day. So obviously it's going to have a tremendous headline the following day at the New York Times. Now, what you need to do is to put yourselves into the New York Times mentality. And I have a sample headline in the thumbnail for this YouTube video, and it has for that day, "Orange Man Bad," and the subheadline or the subtitle is "Trump Steals Another Election." So now the thing to keep in mind is that the Times can no longer publish any headline that shows even a hint or an interpretation of a hint of sympathy for Trump. Why do they say that? Well, yesterday, the New York Times had two headlines, and we're going to see what happens. The first headline was perceived as too sympathetic towards Trump by the left-wing trolls on Twitter with their Antifa-type mentality. And so the New York Times completely caved to pressure. And there's a really, really good headline about this by Clay Waters at Newsbusters, and I'm going to have a link down below to it. But you know what? Let's take a look at his article, and following that, real quick, I'm going to show you the really, really lame response by the New York Times as to why they so easily caved to pressure to change their headline, and then we're going to come back here and maybe go over a few more possible headlines that the Times could have, keeping in mind that they have caved to pressure, so they can't be sympathetic at all to Trump. So we'll come back and come up with some possible headlines. But really, what I want to do is see what your suggestions are for November 4th, 2020 in the comments below. All right, now here we come to the New York Times laughable excuses for why they bowed under left-wing pressure and changed their headline. Now, one thing that's really funny about this is you're going to notice is a lot of use of psychobabble buzzwords. So let's take a look here. And it says, a Times headline about Trump stoked anger. Top editor explains. Oh, God, imagine being assigned with being the editor to get this assignment. So who was that editor? I don't know. It doesn't have his name here. Okay, anyway, it says, a print headline on Tuesday's front page for an article about President Trump's statement addressing last weekend's mass shootings has added to a continuing debate over how news organizations cover his administration. It says, Times editors were concerned that the initial headline, Trump urges unity versus racism, did not contextualize. Oh, I love that word, contextualize. Oh, I put that up there with nuance. That's another favorite. Did not contextualize Mr. Trump's message on Monday and decided to change it for later editions to assailing hate, but not guns. You bowed under pressure, you know. I mean, that's basically it. It was left-wing pressure. You think they would ever change a headline at the Times under conservative pressure? Yeah, the chances of that happening somewhere between nil and none. Says, oh, here's the guy. Here's the guy that got the lousy assignment. Says, we asked Matt Purdy, a deputy managing editor, to address the criticism and offer insight to our editorial process. Here, we got that word again. We got that. You can't have lame excuse from New York Times without the word nuance or nuanced. We needed to deliver a nuanced message in a very small space under tight headlines. And unfortunately, our first attempt at that did not hit it right. Yeah. You meant to change it all along. The pressure had really nothing to do with it. When a group of top editors received an email with the first edition of the front page last night, we saw the headline, realized that it was not a good one, and decided to change it. It's not uncommon for a masthead editors to adjust headlines as we go. Yeah, you received the email that says you better damn well change it. I mean, you're bowing to the left. As I said, you're never going to see them bow to conservatives. As this conversation, that's another where a lot of you notice a lot of presidential candidates are doing this conversation. I think Kamala Harris loves to use that, having a conversation. As this conversation was happening among Times editors, readers began discussing the initial headline on Twitter. No, Twitter, left-wing trolls started screeching on Twitter. That's the better way to put it, more accurate. They were right. They were always right, and we were wrong. They rightly pointed out that the initial headline did not reflect the story accurately. No, actually, they were upset because you accurately did reflect the story, and it told the truth about Trump. So you can't have that. That's not permitted. We are very proud of the great work our reporters and editors have done on last weekend's mass shooting and on Mr. Trump and race. But we agree that headlines are extremely important, and in this case, we should have done better. You know what? Just run it by them all the time. Just New York Times, you need to run all your headlines, all your major headlines, by the left-wing Antifa types. And just to be on the safe side, you want a generic headline that won't get you in trouble with the left. Just put orange, like I put on the thumbnail here. Orange man bad. That's it. Just take it from there. Orange man bad, and then add a subheadline. You could maybe be a little creative on that. But you still have to run it by the Ministry of Truth. You have to run all your future headlines by the Ministry of Truth. Okay, so a few more suggestions from me, but I really, the whole purpose of this is to see what you suggest in the comments below. One would be on November 4th, 2020, the headline, "A Nation Mourns. Russians helps of Trump steal another election." That's one. Or how about this for a headline? Just "Apocalypse Now." That would be a good one. Now, it might be that they are so far gone with their heads exploding on following the election of 2020, they might not even have a headline. Instead, it's a possibility that all they're going to have on their front page is the following picture. So let's take a look. But again, a reminder, please, I want to see your comments because I need to be entertained too. So I want to see your comments as to what the headlines on November 4, 2020 are. Put them in the comments below. And so now let's take a look at what I think might be just the picture with no words on the front page of the New York Times on that day.